There we go. All right, guys, welcome to this product overview tonight with Isagenix. I just first of all want to thank you guys for your time, for showing up on a Wednesday night at 8:30 when there's a million other things you could do. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and take a look at these products, learn a little bit about the products. Some of you may have just gotten your box. Maybe some of you are thinking about getting a box. And maybe some of you were on the business overview yesterday and now you want to learn more about the product line itself. So the goal tonight, really, I'm going to walk you through my product journey and really share with you my personal perspective and some science behind Isagenix and why it's incredible. And we'll close out with, I really would suggest you go back to the person who invited you to the call tonight to really directly address any questions you have about the product line, and they can be sure to get you the answer. Also, Isagenix, I'll just say this up front, if you've got a pen, paper, isagenixhealth.net is a wonderful resource. You can type in keywords in the search function and learn as much as you want, from keto diet to sugar content to everything in between. We've got data and studies and information in there, okay? As well as clinical resources you can pull down if you're a physician, a clinician that wants the real nuts and bolts of the science. So let me take a step back. Who am I? And why should you listen to me, right? So just a little bit about me. My name is Melissa Hinault. I actually have a doctorate in pharmacy. And prior to exclusively really building an Isagenix business, I was in corporate America, actually on the pharmaceutical industry side, on the medical side, where we supported clinical trials, clinical research, and really looked for creating and supporting valid clinical studies to pump out products that are called pharmaceuticals that were safe and effective in patients. So if there's someone with a critical eye and looking for clinical and statistical significance, it's me. I spent a career teasing out data and determining whether something was valid or not. So I want you to keep that in mind as I present this product line to you, and know that I personally have just a team full of clinicians that are incorporating this nutrition into their practices, into their virtual functional medicine programs, and their consultant pharmacy gigs on the side, because they're blown away at what this company is about when it comes to the quality, the purity, and the efficacy and the data. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen. I wanted to see your faces while I was first presenting. Here we go. All right, so that's the overview slide. You guys know me now. So I'm gonna start with maybe a thought-provoking slide that I want you guys to think about. It's more of a reflective, maybe just a moment to pause and think about self-sabotage and where maybe in your life, maybe today, maybe yesterday, maybe last year, where you felt like you were under significant amounts of stress. I don't know about you guys. I'm in a house right now with 3 kids that aren't usually here. I'm supposed to be, teaching them school and running 2 businesses from home at the same time. And I know a lot of you, we call it the quarantine 15. You just do nothing but circle back to the kitchen. You circle back to the pantry. And maybe for some of you by 3 or 4 o'clock, you're like, oh, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, it's time for a drink, right? So many can probably relate to right now, case in point, this kind of self-sabotage cycle of creating a toxic body that ultimately can create a toxic mind that continues to feed toxic actions that can continue to feed on themselves. And maybe you are in tip-top shape right now and you're here learning about how you can help other people be in tip-top shape. And kudos to you, right? But I encourage you to think back to maybe a scenario where there was a place where you had self-sabotage. And I'm going to walk you through my story of self-sabotage and how this company truly brought me back to life, and many people as well. And so what I will say about stress And we know this from science, is that the more stressed out we are, the more self-sabotage there is, the more acidic our bodies can become, the more toxic our bodies can become, and the more inflamed our bodies can become. And I'm going to bring this back to you when we talk about our product line. But what I want you to consider is there are many things that contribute to the acidity of the body, namely food choice, alcohol choice, whether we're putting processed foods in our body or we're putting fresh natural product foods in our body. A lot of, even when we try to do things the right way, our food chain supply in this country is corrupt, no doubt. You know, our nutrients aren't nearly as dense. They aren't as full of minerals as they were, you know, a couple decades ago. So for many reasons, our bodies become acidic, especially when you're stressed. Many times it's easier to grab something quick and easy to eat, like a pizza, quick and easy to go, right? Because you're stressed out and you don't have time to slow down and really nourish your body with the right stuff. That brings me to the toxicity piece. Toxicity from a health standpoint, from literally heavy metals in your body, to the toxic mind that can happen from being in that bad place. And I know some of you can relate to this and have been there before, where that toxic body creates that toxic mind. But we also know that over a lifetime, we accumulate a significant amount of toxins in our body from our food choice habits, the air we breathe, the mattresses we sleep on. I could go in detail about jet fuel that we find in the umbilical cords of newborns. There's things that we can't avoid, that we are exposed to, that accumulate in our bodies because our bodies do a better job of neutralizing them and storing them in fat than they do actually detoxifying them out of our bodies. We'll talk about that in this presentation. The third piece is inflammation. Again, numerous reasons our bodies become inflamed. Cortisol plays a huge role in that. When I go back to the stress factor, a lot of folks have that, what we call cortisol belly. That no matter how clean you eat, there's that stubborn midsection you can't get rid of because your cortisol levels are spiked in the afternoon, right? There's a lot of inflammatory disorders out there really based off of nutrition. If you really want me to get hippie holistic with you, it all starts with the gut. A lot of it starts with what we're feeding ourselves that ultimately turns into an inflammatory disorder in our body, regardless of whether it manifests in the joints, the gut. I could go on and on. But so again, rhetorical question. I want you to think about, when was the last time you felt disempowered? I'm going to tell you about a time when I felt disempowered. But when I say disempowered, I want you to think, you know, maybe it's today, maybe it was a year ago. That moment where you just felt like, you know, that you had those toxic thoughts, that you had those toxic behaviors that were kind of self-sabotaging in that vicious cycle of life. And then I want you to stop and I want you to then reflect on a time where you felt extremely empowered. So that time, those moments where your health is at top notch, you are showing up, you are lean, you are full of energy, you're sleeping like a baby, you've got that clear mental clarity, and you are operating on all pistons, right? I think most of us can attest that we've lived in both places, being disempowered and being empowered, right? And I want to talk to you guys tonight about empowerment through our nutrition. And so here I am. This is Melissa Hinault, right? So this is where I'm going to share with you, if you don't mind, my story of disempowerment to empowerment with this nutrition. And then we'll dive into the actual nutrition itself. But this woman over here to the right, you know, this was the corporate professional who climbed the ranks to Mount Everest, to top of Mount Everest as a medical director in the highly coveted pharmaceutical industry, with a big job, with a lot of responsibilities. And what happened over time, and I know many of you on the line can agree with this, it didn't happen overnight, because I'd always been super fit. I'd always been competing in triathlons and in CrossFit and done half marathons and you name it. I was like the athlete. But what happened is I began saying yes to more things in my career. I began saying yes to more things for my kids. I began taking over too many commitments, career and family, and left myself little to no time for myself and my health. And it happened over time. I slowly became disempowered. And you see that woman in the pink dress is me before Isagenix. I was sleeping horribly, horrible insomnia. That was like my number one chief complaint. Obviously, I was carrying a little bit of baby weight from the previous baby that I just couldn't get rid of in my midsection. And I had that fog in my brain. I couldn't figure it out because I'd always been a go-getter, top performer. And here I was back to work and I just couldn't shake the cobwebs. I wasn't operating in that empowered place I had been before time really slipped away from me owning, right? And so what happened next, and I'll also have to say, many of you can probably attest to this, is that energy level was down to like a 2 or a 3 by the afternoon to evening. By the time I got home, my family got my leftovers, right? My career got everything. And then I'd come home to energy levels in the dumps. To the left is me 6 months into my Isagenix journey. What I want you to consider, for those of you who are super fit already, is there's actually only a 5-pound difference between the right and left photo. Clearly a huge difference in inflammation and that visceral fat that we'll talk about. And really going through intermittent fasting, nutritional cleansing, and flooding my body with superfoods completely changed the density of my body. But not only did it change the physical attributes of my body, what you don't see here is the empowerment that happened, the mental clarity that came through, the sleeping that like a baby that came through, that allowed me to show up better at the gym, to show up better at work, to be a better employee, to be a better boss, all of the things, right? So I'm 5 years in. I have actually left my corporate career to pursue and build this business part-time with full-time pay because I'm that passionate about the impact holistically that this nutrition can make in people's lives with proactive healthcare, getting in front of illness versus the reactive pill lifestyle that I was supporting in clinical research. So moving forward, I want you to imagine, what if you could get a significantly amazing detox in your body? Those heavy metals we talked about that accumulate over a lifetime, that create that mental fog, that bring you down, wreak havoc. Get a leaner and fitter body, no matter how fit you are. I've taken the most healthy, ripped males and still put more lean muscle mass on them and taken fat off. What if you could gain more energy and have a clearer mind and sleep better, which was my number one chief complaint? You know, the thing is, most of us want all of that, right? We want to show up that way, but I take you back to that disempowerment and time, right? Like time being the hottest commodity in our 24 hours. And even though we have the best of intentions, we've given ourselves away to too many obligations to truly make ourselves a priority. And I'm going to talk about how Isagenix is an incredible solution to this whole time pinch in our society. So let me introduce you to the organization, the company that I have fallen in love with, obviously, Isagenix. Our mission is to impact world health and free people from physical and financial pain, and in the process become the most trusted and respected health and wellness company in the world. And I hope over the next couple of slides, I can really showcase to you how this company is truly putting their money where their mouth is. And you can't deny the results and the impact we are making across the world in 18 countries right now. I can't see my little slides over here because I've got my little video, the pictures of all of you guys over here, so I can't see them. But at the end of the day, let's see, in a second, let me pull this over so I can see that. So freedom, health, innovation, integrity, contribution, all of these things are just great descriptors of our company and what we represent. So moving on, there we go. So Isagenix has a solution. We are an overall health and wellness organization. So you might have come in for performance. You might be on the line tonight learning about how to live a more youthful life and prolong your life. And we'll talk about that. Maybe you're here to detox. Maybe you're here to shed some fat and lose some weight, put on some lean muscle mass. Maybe you were on the financial wellness overview last night, knowing that that's an opportunity with this business, and you're here to learn more about the products, but we have solutions in all categories. what lights me up about this company, what's kept me coming back, what's kept me building a really stable business is the science and the efficacy long term. Okay. When you look at Isagenix and our scientific research, compared to some of the most popular diets in the world, like the Heart Healthy diet, what we see is that patients who are put on the Isagenix lifestyle over a period of a year have significantly larger gains, or shall I say losses, long term than some of the traditional diets that are out there. And I go back to that commodity of time. See, one of the big things that differentiates Isagenix from many of the other weight loss programs, health and wellness programs, if you will, and we'll talk about this, is the ease of use and how it fits into a busy lifestyle, but nourishes us along the way. So when you look at a lot of the studies that we did, this one happened to be an 8-week study where we looked at Isagenix versus traditional Heart Healthy diet. What the patient said is that it was the ease of use to maintain, to do it long term. It's not that the other diets don't work, it's that they exclude certain food groups, or you're constantly counting calories, you're constantly measuring meals out, and people get tired of that, right? They just get tired of it. Whereas this program is easily maintainable over a period of a lifestyle. 5 years in, I still have 1 shake a day for breakfast every single day. Convenient with 3 kids. I don't have time to eat, prepare a well-balanced meal anyway. So clinical research, right? So we've done the long-term weight maintenance study. So that's the Heart Healthy diet comparison that I mentioned a minute ago, where we actually did a 52-week head-to-head study against the Heart Healthy diet, outperformed the Heart Healthy diet on all endpoints. I encourage you to go to isagenixhealth.net if you're a numbers geek and you want to go pull the data and take a look at it. But what we see is improvements in performance. We see long-term weight loss, not just short-term. I think, we are bold in our research. Most health and wellness companies only do research for, 2 or 3 months, knowing you can get bold results from a donut diet for a couple of weeks, right? But is it sustainable over a long period of time? We've seen improvements in cardiovascular health and toxin release from fat stores. So lots of really cool science, and you can go look at the research that we've done at Skidmore College. So here's a little bit more for those of you who are really into nutritionally engineered foods and our no compromise policy. We have dozens of scientists, MDs, nutritionists on our board that work for our corporate organization in our headquarters, constantly researching, constantly studying, and selecting the most exclusive raw materials across the world and how they're resourced. We have, a very extensive manufacturing process that ensures the utmost cleanest quality and purity through third-party validation. And so those raw materials are evaluated, and they go through a 5-step process of the identity, the purity, the strength. We go through and the composition of the final product. And you're not going, even as a practicing pharmacist, for any of you that are on the line, you would probably agree there are so many supplements on the shelves that you have no idea what's actually in them because they're not validated. They haven't done third-party testing, right? And so people can literally be wasting their money on product, not knowing exactly how much active ingredient or product they're getting in their body. So that's a little bit about the science. I couldn't do a presentation without talking about the purity and the quality and the testing that we do. So now let's get into the trifecta that I talked about in the beginning, that acidity, the toxins, and the inflammation, those 3 things that I presented to you in the beginning that create self-sabotage, that create a toxic body, mind, and toxic actions. And I want to present to you over the next couple of slides how we have solutions that can take you from that corporate person in that pink dress who really was getting out of control to that empowered woman in that green dress who is showing up 10 out of 10 with everything. So we have our Cleanse for Life. And I don't know, I'd love, for you guys, a raise of hands, or maybe in the chat box, any of you who've actually already participated in some intermittent fasting. Maybe you've heard about intermittent fasting. I see Dr. Chad raising his hand. Great clinical data. And here's the cool thing. Intermittent fasting has actually, it's been around for decades. And there's no denying the science behind intermittent fasting. Just last year, the New England Journal of Medicine did a great publication. We'll actually get into that in a second. But at the end of the day, intermittent fasting really provides, it boosts your human growth hormone. It boosts your metabolism. We're seeing that patients who, for a lifelong intermittent fast, they actually live longer lives, right? Like they live longer lives. People have been fasting for actually centuries. If you think about it, it's even in the biblical days. It was a process. And for those of you who aren't aware of how intermittent fasting really works, our liver performs two major functions. Our liver really aids in digestion, and it also aids in detoxification, okay? So the key science is that when you remove food from the gut, you remove the energy expense to the liver to aid in digestion, right? And when you do that, you really allow overdrive of detoxification. So that intermittent fasting actually drives a natural form of detoxification, boosting human growth hormone, boosting metabolism, and the burning of that brown fat, right? Where Isagenix got it right, and I have people come into my organization all the time who are intermittent fasters, is that we provide a product called Cleanse for Life that is paired with intermittent fasting. This is the blockbuster product that really put Isagenix on the map 18 years ago, before intermittent fasting was popular. Our company was supporting it. And Cleanse for Life is really nourishment for your body during your intermittent fasting. So I have some folks who come from water fasting, lemon water fasting, celery water, you name it. And they go through our intermittent fasting process, where we have supportive nutrition through our Cleanse for Life, loaded with botanicals that actually bind and neutralize those free radicals of toxins that have that loose unpaired electron charge. I know I'm getting a little geeky, but the bottom line is, as your body is releasing toxins, we actually are able to neutralize them and serve them to your liver on a silver platter in a fashion that folks who've had a history of fasting have never felt better fasting before when they introduce Cleanse for Life to that process, because it nourishes you with that aloe vera and some other products you see here on the slide. We actually do have fructose in here. We've got fructose that's beet, pears, and apples. That's where the fructose comes from. We're keeping your blood sugars normalized during that fasting period, so that you don't feel completely wiped, okay? I'm actually on the end of day one of an intermittent fast myself. So that's a little bit about Cleanse for Life. Here is, just some press around intermittent fasting, if you don't want to hear it from me. Some of the top health and wellness magazines, talking about the fastest growing diet being intermittent fasting. And beyond these magazines, I encourage you to go to look at New England Journal of Medicine from last year. It's undeniable. So the second product, we've talked about the trifecta that I want to hit on, is the Ionix Supreme. So we talked about inflammation, stress. We talked about inflammation, stress, and cortisol. How many of you here in the group have ever heard of adaptogens? Have you heard of adaptogens? So Dr. Chad's heard of adaptogens too. Are you using adaptogens? What do you know about adaptogens? Type it into the chat box. Share with the audience, your experience with adaptogens. I know that I can't go through Whole Foods now without it being in a little shot somewhere at the end cap in the grocery store. Again, Isagenix has been producing an adaptogen-rich drink for 18 years. Like, this is a founding product of ours. And it's because the adaptogens are these cool little derivatives of herbs, really, that we found that, not me, but Dr. Anderson and the scientists in Russia, really, and the cosmonauts were the first to use adaptogens, where they studied plants that live in extremely harsh environments, and they're still thriving. And so they did studies to find these derivatives like wolfberry and tribulus and hibiscus and many other things. Ashwagandha, I should really talk about ashwagandha, is like the number one ingredient here. And I apologize because I have my presenter screen so I can see you guys and you're like right over my slides. So I'm like freewheeling it with what I can remember from the slide. But the key is, so ashwagandha, for instance, is derived from these plants from harsh environments. What do adaptogens do? At the end of the day, adaptogens help you adapt to stress in layman's terms, right? They go to the site of stress, the site of the cell, and adapt to stress. What does it mean for those of you who are scientific? It reduces oxidative stress. So what it's doing is it's reducing oxidative stress at a cellular level. And we're finding now in clinical studies that it actually reverses the cortisol imbalance of humans in human studies. So what we're finding is, when we go back to that disempowered Melissa, where I was inflamed and I wasn't sleeping well, it's because traditionally a healthy human whose stress levels are normal, their cortisol levels should be the highest in the morning. And they should taper by bedtime. Your cortisol levels should be low. The problem with most Americans, because of that tight time constraint and stress, our cortisol levels are actually through the roof at night when we're trying to wind down and go to bed. And then we can't sleep and we get this cortisol belly, and the impact that cortisol makes on our body wreaks havoc. So Isagenix has Ionic Supreme in that trifecta that actually addresses the inflammation at the site and also addresses cortisol levels. So now you've got a detox and you'll be able to strip that inflammation, right? And oxidative stress out of the body and really get those cortisol levels back intact. And the third and final pillar of that trifecta is clearly the nutrition, right? So I go back to that time, that time constraint that we all have, that I think all of us, given a perfect world, would have perfectly proportioned macros that are all organic, super clean, 5 small meals a day, right? Like, who would love to just have that served to you with every meal? I've actually gotten to the point where I have 2 vegan meals delivered to my front doorstep. I get a package of them for the week. I've got like 10 total meals that come. And then I fill in the blanks with my shakes, and we do family dinners, maybe 2 or 3 nights a week, where I'm cooking for the whole family a really healthy meal. That's because it's the lifestyle of time constraint we live in. I want the fresh organic food. I don't have the time to necessarily prep the way I want to all the time. So this nutrition, a couple things I want to highlight. Number one is that it has ionic alfalfa in it. If you're familiar with that, there's over 70 trace minerals in our shakes. I truly believe, and I don't just believe, I see it every day, most Americans are malnourished in the sense of minerals. And the minerals really provide enzymatic activity in our bodies. They're kind of like the little key that turns the enzyme on. And if you're missing certain thresholds of minerals, I truly believe that your metabolism slows down. You're sluggish. If you don't have the keys to unlock the enzymes to propagate life, you start to drag, right? So we flood you with those essential ingredients, but we also have whey protein that is completely undenatured. And I want to pause and really highlight that for a second, because I think that a lot of people are unaware of what they're putting in their bodies. They're purchasing these protein shakes thinking they're being healthy and not understanding how they're sourced. So the traditional shake, if you don't peel back the ingredient label and study where it's sourced, you have to remember that whey is a derivative of milk. Milk comes from cows. Most shake companies are not pumping out milk protein from happy, clean cows. And let's talk about that for a second. The average cow in the United States is fed corn instead of grass. That should bother you, because they're not designed to ingest corn instead of grass. So they're inflamed. Their guts, they've got like 7 chambers of stomachs, or maybe 5, to process grass, but they're not getting grass. They're getting corn, okay? So they're sick and inflamed from that manner. They're not free roaming. Many of them don't see daylight, right? And they're milked year round, which is not normal for a mammal. And the way they're milked year round is be pumped full of hormones and antibiotics, okay? And so none of that is natural. and it's being sourced, and then the milk is having to go through a high heat pasteurization process. If you have any knowledge of chemistry, you know that at super high heats, hydrogen bonds, chemical bonds begin to break, especially branched chain amino acids, okay? So I want you to really, go check out your protein shakes on your shelf right now. Read about where that whey protein is sourced. Our cows come from New Zealand. They are free roaming. They're fed grass only, no hormones or antibiotics, and they're only milked in season, which means they don't have to go through that super high heat pasteurization process that breaks down the innate structure of those beautiful branched chain amino acids. So in summary, I know that was a mouthful. In summary, with a undenatured whey protein, you are getting a beautiful, unadulterated protein profile from a cow that was happy and healthy. So, people go on these binges of being healthy and saying, I'm going to consume these protein shakes, not thinking about the fact that the person consuming the protein shakes are already unhealthy, inflamed, and toxic, and now they're going to go source a protein from an unhealthy, inflamed cow and think that it's going to make them better, right? The last thing I'll hit on is because we don't have to go through that super high heat pasteurization process, we actually have live active enzymes that are not destroyed. When water hits our shakes, they're activated, which is super, super good for your gut and safe all the way down to our little ones, okay? We also have a plant-based shake that's got a phenomenal amino acid profile. If you are vegan, then you're probably well versed. I challenge you to take our amino acid profile, compare it to some of the other vegan protein lines on protein shakes on the line out there on the market, and I think you will be pleasantly happy and surprised at our profile. Okay, so this brings us to shake days and cleanse days. So I hit you guys with the trifecta, the three main ingredients when I think about being disempowered and needing to be empowered again is that stress and inflammation, the acidity in the body, right? And the toxicity, right? And so what I'm going to walk you guys through now is our shake and cleanse day system that really helps to reboot the body. It's a 30-day nutritional rebalance. Right now, we also are promoting an 11-day because a lot of people in quarantine just can't even fathom wrapping their brain around being on a program for 30 days. So they're looking at an 11-day. But our traditional system is a 30-day nutritional reboot. Envision investing 2/3 of your groceries to our superfood system for 30 days to get your body alkaline, to detoxify it, and reduce inflammation and stress. Once you get over that hump and you're massively empowered with energy and clarity, sleeping like a baby, showing up to perform, you're motivated to continue making the right choices, right? So I go back again to that empowerment, right? So being empowered, you continue to make healthy habits and healthy choices. It's the disempowered, toxic action that fuels itself. So that whole first 30 days is really just to reboot. I have people ask all the time, well, do I have to live on shakes? Like, when does it stop, right? What you'll find is that most people do a 30-day and love how they feel so much that they want to go into a maintenance where they actually still consume one shake a day because it's super convenient, right? But most people come off that 30-day reboot because they've gotten themselves to an optimum place where they are making the right choices and maintaining that. So you're going to have shake days and you're going to have cleanse days. Let's see. So on your shake days, if you're going for a full 30-day, it's super simple. You replace with the way I coach my team, and you may want to go back to the person who invited you. But for my women, I coach them to replace 2 meals a day if they're in it for weight loss, and have one healthy meal around those to have 2 shakes a day, have 2 shakes a day that replace 2 meals, and have one healthy, well-rounded, sensible, clean meal. And then in between that, they're able to have, 2 healthy snacks that are 200 calories. And what I have found is for people who are disempowered, this really empowers them. to like have a plan and not have to have a million choices with each meal selection, that 2 of your meals are already covered. And depending on the package you purchase, you may even have your snacks put together for you as well. And set you up for success when you're done with that 30 days to make the right choices and have the energy, right? So the majority of your month, you're going to be replacing 2 meals a day with these shakes. And you're going to have 1 healthy meal and 2 sensible snacks. Men, I coach a little differently. Most men have a higher caloric requirement, and depending also on your activity, right? So with men, many times I have you, 1 shake replaces a meal, and the second shake is used as a snack in the mid-afternoon, okay? And you're having 2 healthy meals in between that. The reason that's important, and I want you guys to hear this because I didn't really hit on it when I talked about the shakes. The shakes are clinically proven to shift the body to an alkaline state, okay? Within 2 days, we see a shift in your pH. So regardless for my men, whether you're using the shakes for your meal or for your snack, 2 of them still need to be incorporated per day because we're working towards getting your body alkaline. Because the more alkaline you are, when we get to your cleanse fasting days, the easier they are. So that's the other thing I find is people come in and have done fasting in the past and they felt horrible. And then we ease them in by doing at least 5 shake days before they get to a fasting day. And it's amazing what 5 days of superfoods can do for your body's pH before introducing a fast. And when you get that optimal pH, the cleanse works a whole lot better, right? And then on your cleanse days, you're going to be drinking that botanical rich cleanse along with that ionics that we talked about earlier, along with some other support products. But in general, you'll have options for fasting. So you can fast for 2 full days. That's going to really strip your body all the way down to those heavy metals in the fat tissue. But you can also ease in. I coach a lot of people to do a half-day cleanse the first time, and then do a full-day cleanse the next time. And then you learn that it's really psychological and that we can actually go a pretty long time without food, as long as we're nourishing ourselves with the supplements that Isagenix has really crafted so cleanly and effectively for us. On your cleanse days, you'll have some snacks that you're able to nibble on throughout the day, again, to keep those blood sugars normalized, and you have a choice of what those snacks are. Lastly, I just want to, let you guys know, obviously we are way more than just a nutrition company. I really highlighted tonight the 30-day weight loss program because it's one of our most popular programs, but I actually put a lot of people on that 30-day nutritional rebalance, even if they're looking to put on lean muscle mass, or if they're looking to lean out but not necessarily lose weight. We just change the caloric intake. That detoxification, that intermittent fasting, everything we just talked about is still completely relevant, whether you're overweight, underweight, or looking to perform. We just play with your caloric intake to meet your health and wellness goals. But beyond that, we have an incredible performance line. I see we have Joe Ames on the line. He's a CrossFit athlete, not just an athlete, but top athlete, #1 in his age group, who loves the performance line of Isagenix. I'm not going to get into the depths of it tonight, but it's super clean that our pro athletes can use. We have a plethora of supportive supplements like our greens and our bone broth. And the BIA is something I'm drinking today. It's an energy drink loaded with vitamins in it and adaptogens, that buzzword. It has been a total game changer for cleanse days for most. Here's a great example of someone on our team. This is Kim, just a couple of months ago, who incorporated our new Pro system, actually our new Pro protein, and her transformation is incredible. You look at, she only lost 4.5 pounds, but look at the difference in lean muscle mass. This looks, similar to the transformation that I had. Same with Aaron. He's only lost 4 pounds, but look, it's undeniable the impact that the system has made on his body. And look how he's grinning. He knows he's hot over there to the right. Look at that face. Does he look empowered? Like, he looks so empowered over to the right. Like, I know this is like my buzzword through the whole presentation, but it is. We're truly empowering people. So time is the only universal commodity that we all have. Am I right? And it's our choice of what we do with that time. And I ask you kind of that rhetorical question is what will you do with that time? What will you do with the time that you have? How are you managing that time in order to show up a more empowered self? You know, we all have these like life gaps, whether it's long days or taking care of your kids right now, being on conference calls back to back to back with no time to eat. Maybe you're in a pharmacy behind a glass wall and you don't have time to chew, right? You're just so stressed you forget to eat. We all have life gaps and stress. Isagenix is designed to meet you where your gaps are and nourish you and keep you empowered and not begin to slip into that time encroaching on you where you give up on that commitment to yourself that I talked about earlier on, of like slowly giving yourself away during those gaps. Isagenix shows up for you in those gaps so that you don't slowly give yourself away. You continue to show up. So quickly, step one, you just choose your pack. We have a ton of packs. Go back to the person who invited you and they can walk you through what system is best for you, whether it's for healthy aging, for weight loss, for energy, you name it. And then step two, go on your transformation journey. Maybe you've put on the quarantine 15. Join us on a 30-day challenge and get healthy, get empowered. And I'll just highlight the advantage of our company, just the one-on-one support and the coaching you're going to get from the person who brought you in. The clinical data. As a healthcare provider, I know with confidence I can put people on this product with my license on the line and know that I am serving them with phenomenal products. The cellular detox, it is not a diet. Intermittent fasting strips the toxins out of your body, which drives better results because your toxins are no longer living in you. You can incorporate it in any lifestyle, and no matter the physiology of your body, right? And the advantage is you still incorporate whole foods. You're still eating, but it's convenient in those life gaps. So just kind of to tie it in a bow, you know, with the Isagenix difference, we have the optimum nutrition. We have a no compromise quality, third-party validation on what's in our products. And we have scientific evidence to support our claims and what we have to offer to empower people who come into the product line. And then that step three is just to choose your reward. And so, you know, choose your reward. What I mean by that, I'm going to pull away from the slides here. Choose your reward. So the last thing I'll land on is that we are a word of mouth business. Clearly, what I love about a results-oriented product that's consumable is the best way to get it to market is through word of mouth of people you know. You're here on this line because of somebody you know. Somebody you know either had a phenomenal result or thinks that you would benefit based off of the product line. And so with that, you get to choose your reward when you get started. If you decide you want to pay it forward and share with anyone in your network who may need more energy, need better health right now, need to fill in the life gaps right now, right? You get to choose your reward. As a preferred customer, you can get coupons for referring people in for your next order, or we can give you referral money to offset the cost of your products all the way to getting your products paid for, or like me, actually just saying goodbye to corporate America altogether and pursuing this business full time. But so just know that there's ways to get rewards, paving it forward with people that you want to share with, and that can happen instantly. And so with that, if it's something that you're interested in learning more about, number one, reach back out to the person that invited you. But number two, if you're interested in going on this journey, think about two people who could go on this journey with you that you could have as accountability buddies. I find that people have the greatest success when they don't go it alone. I actually made my husband do it with me because he was in the house with me and I didn't want gallons of ice cream tempting me. And I brought my best friend Sadie in, who I saw on here earlier. There she is. She was on she was plateaued on a keto diet. And I said, what you're missing is intermittent fasting. And so we put her on the intermittent fasting program with Isagenix, and she busted through the plateau and lost another like 30 or 40 pounds, right? So who do you know that maybe you could pave it forward to? You don't have to. We don't mandate anything. But just know that it's out there that you can get your products paid for if you bring in some accountability buddies. With that, I am going to close up I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight, and encourage you to get back to the person that invited you with the questions you have, and go to isagenixhealth.net for some great resources. Type in your buzzwords if you want to research it. All right. Have a good evening.